Well, since the tragic execution of 6 Israeli hostages last week, Hamas has continued their psychological warfare with the release of hostage videos almost daily. Yesterday, yet another propaganda clip was released, this time about the Bibas family. Now, here to speak with us today about the impact of this psychological warfare and how Israeli society should respond is Israel's leading expert on psychological warfare and a professor at Ariel University, Dr. Ron Schleifer. Dr. Schleifer, glad to have you with us. So glad you could join us today. What can you tell us about these recent hostage videos? What is the goal of releasing these videos from Hamas?
Oh, it's Hamas is physically much less than Israel in that term. So it needs to bridge the gap of powers between them, of strengths. It's by psychological warfare. Now, psychological warfare, what used to be in the past called propaganda, is such a tool or a war doctrine that compels somebody to do things which he would never have done otherwise, even though it's war, it's against his own interest. This way, Israel pulled out of Lebanon in 2000. This is why Israel released over 1,000 dangerous terrorists during the Gilad Shalit abduction deal. And this is how Israel is operating now against its own better interest by limiting the scale of warfare in the Gaza Strip. So we do not like to admit it, that we are being manipulated, especially when we are. And this is why Hamas is so effective. What we're seeing basically is a snuff film, and this should alert global powers and armies and defense organizations that this is going to be the new phase in warfare. And they're much better than anyone else in that. And there's no Israeli who hadn't seen those clips, even though we know that this is going to manipulate us to work against our own better interest. But this is the way it works.
Now, how should Israeli society respond to the release of such videos? I mean, some have said ignore, some have said publish because it shows who they really are. What is the right response to this type of psychological warfare, this propaganda?
First of all, we need, just like in any other type of warfare, move the battlefront towards the enemy and to play its own home ground. And for doing that, we need to undergo two major strategic stages. One is to learn the culture of the enemy, and Israel especially is weak in that, and not to mention the whole Western world, because we somehow despise the Arab world, and we underrate it, and this is a huge mistake. The second thing is that to realize the rules of engagement when it comes to psychological warfare, and we need to know how it is done, and to turn the tables against Hamas. Hamas should be worried about what's happening to its leaders, to its chief commanders. The Gazans should be worried. Why is Hamas playing them and uses them as cannon fodder in the hollow promise of a better world in the world to come, while their own children are having the time of their lives in Qatar and Dubai, in the swimming pools and Ferraris and Maseratis. But the trouble is that we don't do this because we think it's not the way of the warrior. It's not a sporting way, as the British used to say it. It's not the way to conduct a war.
Well,
and the British refused that in the First World War.
We are unfortunately, sorry to cut you off, we are unfortunately out of time, but I do want to thank you for joining us and giving us some insight into this issue. I certainly think that Israel should step this up a little bit, as you've mentioned, and hopefully they take your advice on this issue and we understand the Arab world a little bit better. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.